Act 3, Scene 2, Julius Caesar. If you look at the setting, it says the Roman Forum, the city's great public square. It says a few days later. If you tend to skip over things or don't read that information, you might think it happened immediately after the the assassination. Which since this body of Caesar is going to be present at this public viewing for all of these speeches. This is his funeral. This is probably the most famous scene from the entire play. In just kind of reflecting what happened just on the previous few pages, Caesar obviously died. Brutus and all the conspirators are happy. They're having a great time. There's a lot of confusion in the streets of Rome as to, okay, our most popular guy leader was just assassinated. We could feel a lot of different ways. Some people might feel happy, some people might feel scared. But overall, at this point, the public is very concerned. Why did this happen? Why? We need to know why. And that's really their motivation for this particular scene, the public. Brutus and Cassius and all his conspirators have elected Brutus to speak at this particular scene. Cassius has gone elsewhere around Rome. Okay? Remember, we talked at the beginning of the unit that I think somebody mentioned that at the height of Rome, at one point they had 1 million people within their city. That's quite a lot. You're not going to fit 1 million people around this one public square. And so they kind of sent out couriers, and Cassius went, and Brutus is staying here, and their goal is to tell these, they're called plebeians, just common folk, to tell the public why we did this and get them on board onto our cause. That's their goal. Okay, that's their goal for this particular scene. Now, remember in the previous scene, Mark Antony, he walked in, tell me why you did this, and I will love you more than I love Caesar and death. So we're cool, but you need to tell me. You go, you will be told. You will be told in such a way that if you were Caesar's child, you'd be cool with us killing your dad. So that's where Antony is at. So everybody leaves. Antony's cool. We're cool. They leave, and you almost see, not necessarily horns come out of his head, but you see him going into great detail about how I will enact my revenge. It will be so bloody and so gory and so much death and destruction for so long that women holding their dead babies cut into pieces will smile down at it. Because they are so it's an everyday sight. All the blood and gore and death. This is a very emotional and impassioned soul. And remember, you got to remember that he is the one that Cassius wanted to kill, but Brutus said no, he's not going to cause us problem. Well, Antony asked, do you mind if I speak at Caesar's funeral? Cassius says no. Brutus goes, yes, you can, but you must tell everybody, and don't worry because we'll tell them ahead of you, that you are allowed to speak because we allow it. You must not speak falsely against Brutus and the other conspirators. But you could say anything positive you want about Caesar, that's fine. We know you like him, that's fine. So you have to play by these rules or there's no game. Antony says, I will play along. This is such a great scene because if you just skim these couple pages, you see these big chunks. These are speeches in front of, in essence, in front of all of Rome, even though they don't have 1 million people there. Look at the audience, the plebeians, the audience to the speeches. They are confused. They're supporting supporting Caesar. But after Brutus talks, notice where they're at. Do they support Caesar less and Brutus more, or are they still confused? Are they angry? Where are they at on this little scale? Because when Antony speaks as kind of a representative of Caesar, look at the reaction that he gets. Then, when he's done speaking, look at the reaction. And I think you will see that Cassius was right to think that Mark Antony, the honorable, loyal Mark Antony, that he should live. Cassius did not think that he should live. And you will see they should have done what Cassius said, and things might have changed. Things might be much different, and the next 2 acts could be completely different. So, scene 2, the Roman Forum, the city's great public square, a few days later. As they bring on Caesar's body, as Mark Antony references the body, you have a 2-day-old corpse still covered in its original clothes, blood, gore, all of that. Now, I haven't been around a lot of dead bodies, but I can imagine things would start to smell after a while. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's just, that doesn't matter for the whole play, but just think about this body hasn't been buried or cremated or put to rest. It's still in its original state, to the best of my knowledge of what's going on. Okay, so everybody will be able to see, you know, not on camera in Jumbotron, but if anybody walked by the body, they would be able to see the destruction and you know, ferocity with which he died. So we are on scene 2. Act 2, Scene 2. We have Brutus talking to a plebeian crowd who is confused, who look at their very first line. We will be satisfied. We want an explanation. Why did you guys do what you just, why did he die? Why did he need to die? And look at the phrasing that Brutus, you know, remember, he's an honorable person. People think he's very, you know, noble, and he has a lineage and, you know, ancestry and all of that. He mentions there in his speech, be patient till the last. So relax. Let me tell you until, you know, you hear everything. Romans, countrymen, and lovers, hear me for my cause, and be silent that you may hear. Believe me for mine honor, and have respect to mine honor, that you may believe. So you know me, you know what I stand for, so know that what I tell you is true. I have not lied to you, and here's what I have to say. If there be any in this assembly, any dear friend of Caesar's, to him I say that Brutus's love to Caesar was no less than his. If then that friend demand why Brutus rose against Caesar, this is my answer. Not that I loved Caesar less, but that I loved Rome more. That's the driving force for Brutus, for the entire play, for all of his actions against Caesar, all of his decisions. It's not that he said earlier, I love Caesar. You know, but here we see that I love Rome more, and I being Brutus. Okay, so if anybody here says that you love him and you're upset by the death, I'm upset by the death. And I'm one of the killers. But I love Rome more. That's the key to understanding the motivation of this particular action. The very last line 24, 25 there. As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice at it. As he was valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. There is tears for his love, joy for his fortune, honor for his valor, and death for his ambition. So, he's doing a really good job of telling the public, you know, not saying, you know, I should be the next person. I did this as a power grab. No, I did this out of love, and I honor him, and I rejoice at him, and I weep for him. But he had to die. And he tells them the motive, his ambition, which is what is the cause of, this is the reasoning that Cassius approached Brutus in the first place. They are worried about what could happen in the future. Now, Cassius has ulterior motives, maybe. I don't think he wants to ascend to be Caesar. He just does not like Caesar. Okay, I saved that man from drowning. I blah, blah, blah. He's weak. All of these things. Brutus has none of those feelings. Brutus loves a man. But you got to understand the motivation for this character at this particular time, at this particular moment. I love Rome more. There at the end of that, he goes, who is here so rude that would not be a Roman? If any speak, for him I have offended. Who is here so vile that will not love his country? If any speak, for him have I offended. I pause for a reply. None, worthy Brutus, none. So all these people that were confused, fearful, maybe a little anger underneath, but nothing like we see at the very end of the scene. They are believing him. Because Brutus did this for Rome, not for himself. And so if anybody here disagrees with me, then you are not a true Roman. Go ahead, speak. Let's hear you. Let's hear what you have to say. Well, do you think somebody's going to raise their hand in front of a horde of thousands, tens of thousands maybe? He's swaying them to their cause, and it's very emotional. He goes, then none have I offended. And so we can see the plebeians who are confused down here, they're kind of up there where Brutus is now. They're following the line of reasoning for the action of killing, killing Julius Caesar. The next page, when Antony enters, line 40, right around in there. Follow on, please. Here comes his Here comes his body, mourned by Mark Antony, who, though he had no hand in his death, he shall receive the benefit of his dying, a place in the commonwealth, as which you shall not. Okay, so he's the citizen. So Mark Antony didn't do any of the killing, just as you guys didn't do any of the killing, but he's going to benefit from the death of Caesar just like everyone's going to benefit. Because we don't have this tyrant who will take the crown and go and do whatever he wants. And so it's a big important moment. He goes, with this I depart, that as I slew my best lover for the good of Rome, I have the same dagger for myself when it shall please my country to need my death. Think about that. Again, guys, Brutus is not a bad guy. Brutus is the one that we feel for. He had to do this because of his convictions. He's saying, here's my dagger. This is what I used to kill Caesar. And when Rome needs my death, you can use this dagger to take me out, if it's for the better of Rome. A very noble gesture. It's so important that you understand that. And then look at the reactions from these plebeians when he's pretty much saying, kill me when it's necessary. Live, Brutus, live, live. Bring him with triumph home unto his house. Give him a statue with his ancestors. Let him be seated. So in those 3 lines, and if we saw this as a play, everyone on stage would be screaming something, okay, but these people were meant to be heard. Look at what they think of him. Give him a statue like the rest of his noble ancestry. Make him Caesar. Put him in charge. And remember, Cassius has gone to split the crowd so everybody can hear. So Cassius is some way over there. Maybe somebody else is way over there. But we have all of these people, okay, moving around so that the message can be told. Okay, so everybody in the crowd is very much in support, yay, of Brutus. So when Antony comes up to speak, Brutus has one more thing there, line 55-ish. He says, good countrymen, let me depart alone. And for my sake, and for me, do me a favor, stay around and listen to Antony. Do grace to Caesar's corpse, and grace his speech tending to Caesar's glory, which Mark Antony, by our permission, is allowed to make. I do entreat him, not a man depart, save I alone till I enter. So please stay as a favor to me. You think good of me? Stay. Listen to what he has to say. And we gave him permission to speak, and he didn't do any of the killing. But let him speak, and you listen to what he has to say. Again, another kind of not a bad moment, but a moment that Brutus, if he could go back in time, in a few pages down the road, he probably would have not allowed Mark Antony to speak. In fact, he might have had him killed. Good. So Antony comes in, his first line, for Brutus' sake I am beholding to you. Beholding, so indebted. So thank you very much, and thank you for listening to me. What does he say? Because it's noisy, so I can't hear. He says, for Brutus' sake. He finds himself beholding to God. Well, twere best he speak no harm of Brutus. Yeah, this Caesar was a tyrant. Follow the ebbs and flows, the waves, the ups and downs of this crowd. So you can see, because at one point, Mark Antony is going to say, I'm not an orator like Brutus. That means I am not a good speech maker. I can't speak. I'm not that good in front of a crowd like Brutus is. But we as the audience, us, the readers, you're even better than Brutus. Brutus did a great job. He told an audience, he told the public reasons why they killed their famous, popular person, and, okay, we go along with that, we're fine. In fact, I want you to be Caesar, I want you to have all these things. So they think so much of Brutus. Now Antony comes in, who 5 minutes ago, Antony would have been the hero, but he is way down here, okay, way down here. After Antony talks, he's going to completely flip it. But he has to follow those rules of not speaking badly. And that's why with this, his most famous speech, top 5 Shakespearean speeches of all time, mainly because of the first couple lines here. So follow along. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. So please listen to me and be quiet. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The good is oft interred with their bones. So let it be with Caesar. So I'm not going to be giving speeches about how great he was and how great he was. Okay? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. So there's a lot of very interesting word choice that he takes here. Look at these words, noble and honorable. He's showing these people that these people are honorable and loyal, but then eventually look at what they did, and they call themselves honorable. Now I can't speak badly of them because they are honorable people. But look at these examples to show that Caesar wasn't a tyrant. But again, he doesn't speak badly of those conspirators. And this is his good usage of the human language, the English language, or whatever language back then, Latin. And so we have line 75 or so. The noble Brutus had told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously, so a deadly, a fault we're dying for. So Caesar's answered. Here under leave of Brutus and the rest, for Brutus is an honorable man, so are they all. All honorable men come I to speak at Caesar's funeral. And now here's where he starts to tell about Caesar and how he wasn't a tyrant, but look at how he does it kind of cryptically. He was a friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious. And, well, Brutus is an honorable man, so I must have to trust what he says. Okay? He had brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. So, in all of his conquering, they brought all of these money and slaves and all of his stuff, but it was for the general coffers. It was for our treasury department, not for his bank account. Was this ambitious? Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. When the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. Well, you all did see that on the Lupercal, I thrice presented him a kingly crown, and he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? Well, Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. Well, let's just pause for a moment. Think about this from a public, a plebeian perspective. All of these things, well, he did care about us. He was concerned we were poor. His victory spoils did go to us, and well, not like my little bank account, but the whole commonwealth. Maybe he wasn't so ambitious. Because look at what Mark Antony says. What he says is true. Look at all those things that he did. We don't necessarily see the ambition that Cassius and Brutus were talking about. And, in fact, we were there. Mark Antony did offer him a crown 3 times, and he refused it 3 times. You're right, I don't think that's very ambitious. Boy, maybe we were wrong. Maybe Brutus and those guys are other. I don't know. But Mark Antony, let's keep hearing. Let's hear what he has to say. And so they continues. Brutus says he was ambitious, he's an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. Then what cause withholds you then to mourn for him? So you all loved him at one point. So why are you not mourning him right now? Why are you, yes, you were confused for a few days and concerned about why, but now after hearing Brutus, you guys were happy that Caesar was dead. But you loved him and he loved you. Why are you not mourning for him now? That doesn't make sense to me. O judgments, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me, my heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. Here is a wonderful moment. The corpse of Caesar is right there. I'm at the pulpit, Anthony talking to you. And so, people, how can you behave this way? I'm sorry, I'm emotional right now. I need a moment, please. My heart is there in the coffin with Caesar. I must pause until my heart comes back to me so I can speak. Just a moment. Talk amongst yourselves. You can almost imagine him just kind of appearing, just giving them moments to stew on it, moments to think about it and absorb it and reflect on it. Look at the plebeians. These guys are a good barometer or a thermometer to see how things are going from time to time. Look at the first plebeian, line 108 or so. Methinks there is much reason in his sayings, if thou consider rightly of the matter, Caesar has had great wrong. Has he, masters? I fear there will a worse come in his place. So they're worried about what's going to happen now. And so they are on board with Antony at this point. And if you don't believe so, wait until we see what happens in the next time. Mark Antony gets ready to talk again, and they go, there is not a nobler man in Rome than Antony. 1 page ago, we would have said that about Brutus. But now Mark Antony is the most noble. So Mark Antony is good with his speeches, and people are listening to what he says. So, Antony goes on to talk about line 119. Look at this. He goes, O masters, if I were disposed to stir your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who you all know are honorable men. I will not do them wrong, because if he did them wrong, that would be against his word and his honor. Now, obviously, his goal is to get everybody to rage and mutiny based on what we saw at the very end of the previous scene. But he can't come out straight away and say it. Have you ever seen a movie where somebody is trying to get somebody to do something, but if they come right out and ask it, it's not going to work? They have to make that person think it was their idea. Right? I got to make them think that it was their idea to have the rage and the mutiny and the riots. I have to make it them so it doesn't come back to me, because I swore that I wouldn't do that. And so that's where we see Antony saying at this particular moment. In fact, he pulls out a parchment. It's Caesar's will. I rather choose to wrong the dead, to wrong myself and you, than I will then I will wrong such honorable men. So I won't do that. I won't get you riled up, because that will do them wrong and you wrong and me. I won't do that. But instead, I got Caesar's will here that I want to read to you. And you know what? Maybe I shouldn't read it, because you will see how much he loved you. And that'll make you really, you know what? Never mind. I don't want to show that to you. That will just cause you more pain and heartbreak. Do you see what he's doing? Because wouldn't you want to see what's in the will and how much Caesar loved you? But yet, no, I can't show it. No, I can't show you. It would hurt you too much to see how much he loved you. Read the will, Antony. Read it. Read the will. No, I just can't. So he's tempting them with that carrot or that cookie, and he keeps pulling it back right before they get it. Line 129. I do not mean to read, and they would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds and dip their napkins in his sacred blood, yea, beg a hair of him for memory, and dying, mention it within their wills, bequeathing it as a rich legacy unto their children. This is just going to be too painful to see what he has left you and left your children. We'll hear the will. Read it, Antony. The will, we will hear this. No, have patience. I must not read it. It's not meet, you know. It's not proper, you know, how Caesar loved you. You are not wood, you are not stones, but men. And being men, hearing the will of Caesar, it will inflame you. It will make you mad. 'Tis good you know not that you are his heirs. For if you should, what would come of it? Because when he finally does read the will, Caesar has left them a lot of stuff. He thought of you all as family. He thought of you all as his children. Now think back. Are you still loyal to Brutus? And think that Caesar was a tyrant and Caesar was ambitious? It's a good thing Caesar died? After I just told you that he considered you his children? And he turned down the Lupercal, the crown on Lupercal 3 times? Is that ambition? Imagine the ups and downs of this crowd during this particular scene. Look at the plebeians' response on line 151. Oh, actually, Anthony says, I fear, based on your reactions, I fear that I may have wronged those noble men whose daggers have stabbed Caesar. I do fear it. Oh, they were traitors, honorable men. Read the will, read the will. They were villains, murderers. The will, read the will. You will compel me then to read the will? Fine. Make a ring around the corpse of Caesar, and let me show you him that made the will. Shall I come down there? Shall I descend? Come down, come down, come down. So everybody get around the corpse. Everybody circle. Let's look at this. Look at the body here. A ring, stand around. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now. You all did know this mantle, this cloak, this toga. I remember the first time he ever put it on. It was a summer's evening in his tent after we had this big battle. I remember it. Look in this place ran Cassius's dagger. Look over here where Casca. Look, this the well-beloved Brutus stabbed, and as he plucked his cursed steel away, mark how the blood of Caesar followed it. That was the most painful cut of all. That was the most painful. And so he's showing them the 2-day-old, probably rigor mortis body, but still covered in blood, showing them the death stabs that happened. The top of the next page there, line 177, read along. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel, his favorite. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. This was the most unkindest cut of all. For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude, more strong than traitor's arm, quite vanquished him, quite killed him. So it wasn't so much the daggers, it was the betrayal. That, my Romans, is what killed your precious Caesar and my precious Caesar. 188, he goes, when great Caesar fell, oh, what a fall was there, my countrymen. Then I and you and all of us fell down, whilst bloody treason flourished over us. So while these conspirators swaggered around and talked to us, we were just crushed, and we should have been crushed by this. Look, here is himself marred, as you see, with traitors. So look at this body. Look at the blood isn't oozing out anymore after 2 days. The heart's not pumping. But just look at how horrible this situation was. So, good friends, sweet friends, let me not stir you up to such a sudden flood of mutiny. They that have done this deed are honorable. I come not, friends, to steal away your hearts. I am no orator as Brutus is. Yeah, right, you're better than he is. But as you know me all, a plain blunt man that loves my friends. For I have neither wit nor words, nor worth, action, nor utterance, nor the power of speech to stir man's blood. Obviously you do. But you see him saying that he doesn't, and everybody obviously knows that he does. But were I Brutus, and Brutus Antony, there was an Antony would ruffle up your spirits and put a tongue in every wound of Caesar that should move the stones of Rome to rise in mutiny. But I'm Antony and I can't speak falsely. But if I were Brutus and Brutus Antony, we would rise you up and you would just wreak havoc and riots and take down everything that is Rome. And that's where everybody, we'll burn Brutus's house. Yay, we'll kill the conspirators. We'll seek them out. You know what? At the end they say, let's burn Caesar's body and use the flames to go light their everything up. And, you know, everything goes nuts. So everybody leaves. And just to wrap this up here, Antony's line after they left with the body on line 256, now let it work. Mischief thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. So a very famous line, mischief thou art afoot. And the riot has taken off. Some servant comes in and says that Brutus and Cassius are rid like madmen through the gates of Rome. He thinks they have had some notice of the people, how I had moved them. Bring me to Octavius. So Octavius Caesar has finally been allowed to come in. It's safe for him. Brutus and Cassius have fled and left because they've heard the crowd and the commotion of what was happening. So Antony, look at how he manipulated those people just with his words. And at one point at the top he goes, oh folks, I forgot, I haven't even told you the will yet. Read the will! They were going to do all this stuff without even hearing about how I'm going to give you, Caesar, give you some money. I'm going to give you my gardens so you could walk and stroll and make them a public park. I give this to you. And that just pushed them over the edge. Cassius and Brutus will never step in the gates of Rome again. They have fled for their lives, as have other conspirators. People haven't been caught. And this next scene, we will see one person who, just because he has the same name as someone else, a conspirator, things don't work out too well in his favor. Okay?